I wrote, recorded, mixed, mastered, arranged, basically produced a song in 30 hours. A lot of pressure, time challenge for Caruso on their monthly themed song submission. I want to talk through the positives and negatives, for me, my perspective, of doing that.
Here we go, here we go, here we go.
So as I said, it was for Caruso, which is a social network. There's a link to Caruso in the description down below. All submissions every month are critiqued and reviewed at a monthly listening party. And I want to talk through my experience of doing that. I'll go through the negatives first, in no particular order, just as I thought of them and wrote them down. The first thing was comping vocals. I found it incredibly time-consuming. It took a lot of time, and in fact, I had to do it twice. Yeah, I just found it very time-consuming, and it might be to do with, or it probably was to do with, I don't tend to do vocals in my songs. I'm just sort of starting to get into that. But also I was using new software that I'd never used before, Repeat. So as well as recording and comping the vocals, I was learning this piece of software. It was fairly intuitive, but I had to keep going away to YouTube and looking up how to do certain things. So that was quite time consuming. One of the lessons I learned, and this goes for everything really, it's not just vocals, but it kind of sticks out more with vocals because mistakes kind of show more. The better quality of A, the recording, and B, the vocal, it makes it much easier to work with. Yeah, I know it's not rocket science. It's an obvious thing to state, but I don't think you realise how valuable those two things are until you actually start to do that deep editing. So I found that working with a time constraint, which for me, but it was a week. I mean, I had a month to do this, but I ended up with a week. And what I found was I wasn't taking enough breaks during, maybe not so much the recording side of things, because I think tracking the guitars and the bass and so on didn't actually take too long. But when it came to comping and mixing and mastering, I didn't really take enough breaks, which, causes ear fatigue, whether you're working on headphones, particularly if you're working on headphones, which I wasn't for most of the time, but it causes ear fatigue and you just don't hear things the same way. And you think, I've got to boost that bass, or I've got to take some of that frequency out. And you just end up making bad decisions, and then you have to go back and redo them. So you got that rework element, and you're just losing time. I find myself, working quite late into the evening after a full day at work, going into the studio and working on the song. And as a result of that, I would forget things. So I'd come out of the studio, I'd go away, and I think, oh yeah, I've got to do such and such, and then it would just go from my mind. Another thing I found that, as a music producer, part-time, amateur, hobbyist, whatever you want to call it, but as a producing music, I think so. You might not. We all have our own workflow, how we do things, whether it's for recording or whether it's for mixing or whatever it may be. There's a workflow. There's a process that we follow because we know that we've done it before. We know what happens, and we know it's tested for us and it works for us. And what I found was I didn't do it. I didn't follow my own workflow. I didn't do things in the logical sequence that I would normally do things. I've been working on something and I noticed something else, and I'd get involved in sorting that out, and then I'd forget what I was doing, and things would get missed that way because I wasn't following the workflow that I generally follow. A big impact was the impact it has on family time, day-to-day activities, eating. I didn't want to come out the studio to go and eat. I come out the studio and I lose half an hour, I lose an hour. You get so engrossed in what you're doing that you kind of forget about what's going on around you, and you want to get back to it. You get fired up. There's so much going on in your head and you want to get into it. My wife was absolutely wonderful about it, totally understanding. She didn't moan about anything, but there's still a sense of guilt there. I don't think that the end result was fantastic. It wasn't bad. It could be better, but it wasn't bad. To a certain extent, when you're creating music and you're coming up with riffs or bass lines or sequences or whatever it is, you like them. You like them at the time you do it. Obviously, you would throw it away and do something else. And for this song, there's almost a feeling of, well, I've just wasted that riff now, or I've wasted that solo. I've put it into a song. It's just thrown away. It's wasted. One of the things that was quite impactful on the end result of both the song and the YouTube video I made about making the song was the fact that I was doing both. I would imagine that most, if not all, of the people from Camuso that submitted a song for that month were just making a song. But because I wanted to make a video about it, that side of things was distracting. And my full focus wasn't really on the song, because I've got different audio being used for the video. I've got audio being used for the song. I've got to make sure that I've got cameras filming me while I'm working, and audio coming off the desktop. And anyway, the end result was some of the audio that I recorded, not the song, but some of the audio I recorded to use in the video just wasn't usable. So have a quick look at the website. Well, we'll have a quick look at. I use Studio One as my DAW. Generally, what I would do if I'm using it, and I thought, how do I do that? How do I'll just pick an example. How do I convert that MIDI file to audio? Or how do I take that audio file and transpose it, for example? And if I wanted to know that, I would look in the manual, or more likely jump onto YouTube. There's millions of tutorials on there about how to do that kind of stuff. And I would do it. I'd look on there, I would learn it, and I would be doing it several times in the context of the song that I was mixing or producing. Repetition helps the memory, and I would remember it. And if I came to do it again 3 or 4 weeks later, I go, oh yeah, I know what to do. But I wasn't getting that here because it's time pressures. So I would, how do I can't think of something. What did I do that nothing springs to mind? I've forgotten it, you see. so yeah, how do I do something? I go quickly, go and look on YouTube, find out how to do it, come back, do it, move on to the next bit. I mentioned this earlier on actually about workflow. I mean, part of my workflow when mixing is to check my song in mono. There are sensible reasons for doing this. If you've got things panned way too far out to the left and right, then when it's submit to mono, they might just be lost and would not be in the mix at all. So you have to do things to deal with that. At one point I said, right, I'm going to do a mono check. Literally did about 10 or 15 seconds of listening to it in mono, and I never went back to it. So that was something that got missed. Something else that got missed was reference track. So using a reference track to listen to a song that is similar to the one that you're creating. Didn't do that. I think I might have mentioned that I was going to do it, but just forgot or didn't have time. When I got to mastering, it was late on Wednesday evening. This had to be in by 3 o'clock on the Thursday. I couldn't do anything on it on Thursday because I was working. So when it came to mastering, I did the mastering on the main bus, the master bus, rather than in the Studio One's mastering module. I just threw on a couple of plugins that I've used in the past and did a little bit of tweaking, and that was it. I didn't really spend any time on it. The time element, a lot of these things are to do with time. I had to stop working on the vocals. After I'd done the second set of vocals, I just had to stop. It sounded fine at the time. It was okay-ish, again, to do with ear fatigue. I just didn't have the time to do any more on it, and I had to move on. Well, lots of negatives. They're positive negatives. Does that make any sense? It's a good learning experience. All of those things that I've just said about, ear fatigue and not taking breaks and missing things out and not following workflow, I learned from all of that. But there are positives. I enjoyed working with vocals. I enjoyed learning about Repitch, which is the software I was using it's an auto-tune software. I enjoyed learning that. I enjoyed trying to work out harmonies. I enjoyed the recording of the vocals. I'm looking forward to working with vocals again. Another positive, I did track the instruments very quickly. And actually, they turned out, I'm quite pleased with the way they turned out. Normally, when recording guitars, I would listen and pick up mistakes, and I want to go and punch in and correct that mistake. But I didn't have the time. I didn't have the luxury of the time to do that. And so there are some, minor mistakes in the comped track that I couldn't get rid of with comping, and I didn't have time to go and retake. But what I realised actually is that you can hear them on the individual comped track, put them into the context of the mix with other guitars going on, other things going on, and you just don't spot them. You don't see them. So that's quite a good thing to take away. I know the list of negatives was much longer than the positives, but actually, it was a big challenge. But it was really fun. I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed it being immersed in creating something, even with the added difficulty of creating two things, the song and the video. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just love that sort of stuff. So, it was great. It was really good fun. So then I went to the listening party. And I suppose this is the big question. What did they make of it? Actually, it was really positive. They listened through to it, and whilst it's being listened through to, there's a chat box open and people type in comments on the chat, and then after that's finished, there's an open discussion. And so the comments that popped up during the listen through, that sort of people typed in, somebody said it reminded them of a heavy ABBA. Somebody else said it's like ABBA meets Quo meets Blondie. And the response to that was, yeah, because of the vocals. It seemed to be well received. During the actual talk afterwards, generally speaking, people thought it worked very well. Quite a few people really liked the guitar solo, which I'm pleased about, because that was kind of the crux of the song. It was about, it's your last chance to get it right, so very bloody good. A couple of people liked the overall sound, good vocals. I wasn't overly happy with the vocals. They worked, but some people liked them. Somebody actually interestingly said, and this was the whole point of the song for me, that the here we go bit, and then nothing happening, built a kind of a sense of anticipation, and they liked that anticipation of waiting something. Didn't know what they were waiting for, because the words didn't give that away, and then it turned out to be this solo, and they thought it was great. So, yeah, all in all, a very positive reception at the Caruso listening party. So 2 questions remain then, really. One is, will I ever go back to this song and change it, tweak it, spend more time on it? Possibly, I might do. If I do, it won't be for a few months. I've got other things that I need to be working on. That's what I achieved in the 30 hours that I spent on it in the week that I had available. And it's just a point in time. And would I do it again? Final question. I will. I won't do it again in 30 hours. I will leave myself more time. I'll plan things out properly. I'll do it more carefully. So Last Chances was the April theme. June, there'll be a new theme, and I'm going to be doing that one. And in fact, what I'm actually going to be doing is a collaboration with my wife. You're not going to get to see that because my wife she wants to do the music. She's not interested in being on video, but I will do a quick video about it afterwards. So hopefully you stayed with this, and you can now jump to the description or the link, whatever is going on, and go and watch the video of the making of what I've just spent the past, I don't know how long, talking about. As always, if you've liked this, please like it, subscribe, hit the notification, and I shall see you on the next one.
Here we go, here we go, here we go.